Stutely. I'm the chair for this meeting. We have Councillor Sally Button and Councillor Caroline Ackroyd on the subcommittee. David Lowens. David is solicitor for NP Law, providing legal advice to us today. Tiffany Bentley from the licensing department, and Leonie, who is our committee officer. Okay, we also have the applicant, and first of all, we better have apologies, and there are none, and declarations of interest, and there are no declarations of interest. So I'll hand over to Tiffany for the report. And Tiffany, can you confirm there are no additional papers, and talk about the additional representation, please, from the objector? Thank you.
Yes, no additional papers other than that was circulated on the 27th, I think it was. So that, but I'll refer to that at the end of the report as well, if that's okay. So the purpose of the meeting today, members are asked, in accordance with the delegation of licensing functions contained in the Norwich City Council Statement of Licensing Policy under the Licensing Act 2003, to consider the application for the variation of a premises licence in respect of Tipsy Jar, 8 Redwell Street, Norwich, following the receipt of a relevant representation. Members need to determine the application to vary the premises licence in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003, the guidance issued under section 182 of that legislation, and the Norwich City Council Statement of Licensing Policy. Moving to the main body of the report, the application, the applicant is Elise Fennell, who's one of the directors of a company named LA Mixology. In summary, the application seeks to vary the licence to extend the hours for sale of alcohol on Monday to Thursday and Sunday from the hours 7 AM till midnight, and on Friday and Saturday from 7 AM through till 1 AM the following morning. The application also seeks to allow off sales and to add the licensable activities of recorded music and late night refreshment. Copy of the existing licence and the operating schedule is attached as Appendix A to the report. Copy of the application form is attached to Appendix B to this report. There haven't been any representations received from any of the responsible authorities as detailed, but there has been one representation objecting to the application being received from one local resident. Copy of the representation is attached as Appendix C to the report. A location map is attached at Appendix D. Then paragraphs 8 and 9 just make reference to the national guidance and the Norwich City Council Statement of Licensing Policy. Paragraph 10 is a summary. In determining the application with a view to promoting the licensing objectives, the subcommittee must give appropriate weight to the steps that are appropriate to promote the licensing objectives, so the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. The representations, including supporting information presented by all the parties, the guidance issued under section 182 of the Licensing Act, national guidance, and the Council's own statement of licensing policy. Subcommittee must take such of the following steps as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. Grant the application as asked, modify the conditions of the licence by altering or omitting or adding to them, reject the whole or part of the application. Subcommittee is asked to note that it may not modify the conditions or reject the whole or part of the application merely because it considers it desirable to do so. It must actually be appropriate in order to promote the licensing objectives. The representation received appears to relate to issues that fall under the licensing objectives. So that concludes the report. But Mr. Bennett who's the gentleman who made the representation, is unable to attend today, but he has submitted additional information which has been circulated to all parties in advance of the hearing. There were a few questions raised within that documentation as well. So if you want to sort of conclude the report there, then I'm happy to answer those or give the information that I've answered his questions with as we go through. But otherwise, that concludes the report.
Okay, thank you. As you've referenced them, I think perhaps we'll hear about those questions now, if you could just elaborate.
Yep, sure. Just bear with me. Gosh, I don't know exactly which paragraph. If you're happy, so there's the secondary supplementary information from Mr. Bennett, and within that he does raise a couple of questions. If you're content, Chair, what I can just do is sort of just explain what I have replied with. Bear with me one moment. So I confirmed that the second document had been circulated. Ms. Bennett asked a question regarding the process of transfer to the limited company.
Yes.
So LA Mixology, the application to transfer was received by the licensing authority on the 26th of October 2021. In accordance with the legislative procedure, police are the responsible authority who can also consider that as well. And on the 1st of November, the police confirmed they had no objection to the application. So at that point, the premises license was transferred to the current holder on that same date. And the change of holder, at that point, the premises license remains exactly the same, so same activities, times, plan, condition, everything, just the premises license holder and that responsibility moves across at that point. The other question Mr. Bennett raised was regarding the licensing policy. So I provided him with the information detailing the public consultation agreement by licensing committee and full council, so just how that's happened, and the supporting minutes and agenda items for that. Within that second document, Mr. Bennett also refers and makes some allegations to off sales already taking place and the permitted hours being exceeded. So in accordance with the way we deal with things, those have been passed on to our enforcement officers and to the police licensing for onwards investigation. But as I mentioned, Mr. Bennett, that is separate to this process today for the determination of the application. In the same vein, there was a concern raised about the DPS having connection with the premises and so on. So it's a matter as to whether members feel that's something for discussion today or for clarification. But again, it's not a bar to the actual process today going ahead. So yeah, the enforcement team will have a look at those allegations of breaches as we do when they are received. But I do know that there have been temporary event notices given for the premises for off sales on several dates in November, December, and January. There is also a legislative kind of benefit for a temporary off sales extension via the Business and Planning Act 2020, which is in force as part of the coronavirus kind of easing restrictions and support for hospitality. So that is in place until September 22 as well. So I can't, I don't have the information of exactly what was being relied on at which point in time. If there's any of those allegations, that is a matter for our enforcement team to have a look at. But hopefully that just answers the questions that Mr. Bennett has raised within that second document.
Okay, thank you. That yeah, that will save us some time. Okay, so I'll ask Elise Fennell. Ms. Fennell, if you'd like to just address the committee, please. Tell us about your application and in particular make reference to the licensing objectives that have been raised by the issues that have been raised by the objector, please.
Hello, I'm Ellis Fennell, the applicant for LA Mixology. Firstly, I just want to address the off-licence sales, just to reassure. I know it will be dealt with separately, but we have had temporary events notices for the days we've run it. We also have my house, which we've run off-licence sales for 18 months as our Tipsy business. So we have been using this premises as well. So I'll appreciate there may be a further investigation, but in the context of this, we have been doing it all above board. So I own Tipsy, which is a company we found in lockdown, was a cocktail delivery company. So for the first 18 months, we ran it from here, from my house in Sprowston, as an off-sale cocktail delivery company. So we mixed up the cocktails and we've been delivering it to people's houses to get them through lockdown. This is under the company LA Mixology, because in all honesty, we didn't think Tipsy would take off as it did. So LA Mixology was our existing company, so that's why there's the two company names. And after lockdown, there's a real call for it. So we were approached by the new owner of 8 Redwell Street and took up a lease there with him to do what we were doing in our jars in a bar. We've been running it since November, and we knew from the day we took it on, we would definitely want to do the off-license sales from the bar as well, get it out of our house, bigger production space, we can get the staff involved. So the off-license is something that is pretty fundamental to the business, and that's why we've applied for it. The way our off-license works is it's done online. So people book a delivery slot, our delivery driver turns up at 5:30, loads up the car, takes them on around one big route, so it's not lots of cars coming in, it's sort of one big load. And then we'd like to offer collections all night as well, just for convenience for customers. Sometimes they're too far away, we can't get to them, but they still like them. So that's why we've applied for the off license for deliveries and collections. We've also found, just in the nature of our bar, it's a table service bar, pretty relaxed environment, no dance floor. It's just a place to come with a big Chesterfield sofa, come and have a drink. So we found that we were actually getting quite a lot of people coming after dinner. Hence why we'd just like to add on an extra hour to the end of service each night. So we were at 11 at the minute. We'd just like to stretch that out to midnight. And again, there was a Facebook post that we were open till midnight on Thursday. Again, that's not the case. That's my error. We've been closing at 11 on Thursdays. I can provide CCTV for that. So that's the application. That's why we'd like it. We're hitting a slightly later crowd. We find most of our business comes at about 10 p.m. and we're having to shoo them out the door at 11:15. So we just like to add an extra hour onto our sales. I've been in communication with the council, who've been very helpful. The police, Michelle Bartram in particular, who is happy with what we're doing. She emailed us on the back of this application and said, got your application. We spoke about the, I can't remember his name, apologies, the drinking in public. And she said, I know you know what you're doing, but I just need to highlight it. And of course, we're happy with that. So for collections, we've got a tamper seal on the jars and we give them away in a bag. And our cocktails aren't actually finished. You still need to take them home, add the ice, shake them up, put them in a glass, put garnishes on. It's not a stick a straw in and walk down the street job. So she's content and we're aware of that. And it's something that we obviously are keeping in mind. And if we thought someone was going to be drinking outside, we wouldn't give it to them. The noise prevention of public, I know Mr. Bennett was particularly concerned about noise. Again, we're a low-level music bar. You can't really hear much unless you're walking and listening out for us on the street. He's concerned about people leaving the premises, which is why we've only asked for midnight on a weeknight and 1 a.m. We've not asked for too much later, which I think, considering where we are near Queen Street, there is quite a lot of later places around, and I think it's inevitable in that area. Unfortunately, there is noise. I'd hope we wouldn't contribute to it. We ask people to leave quietly and quickly. We ask anyone if they're smoking. We always ask them to go around onto the St Andrews Street rather than onto Redwell Street. And we do try and prevent and just keep it as quiet as best we can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so in the objectors document, there were these two accusations, and you've covered them to a point, and Tiffany also mentioned. I think it would be unfair not to give you an opportunity just to confirm those. So you've already said that the Facebook post or the Facebook timings is a typo. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. I do the Facebook, and that's on me. It is a typo, and I'd be happy to provide CCTV and till receipts just to show that there has been no one on our premises past that time.
That's obviously subject to the investigation, which will be carried out separately. So, and also just relating to the other Facebook page suggesting that collections could be made, and that was on the 23rd. So again, do you have the temporary event notices in place for the dates that you were advertising that?
Yes, we got temporary events notices for Fridays and Saturdays in January.
Okay, thank you. So we'll draw a line under that, and that's noted by the committee. Okay, so questions for Ms. Fennell. Councillors. Councillor Ackroyd, you had a question about the entrance.
Sorry, just failing to unmute. I do. Yes, thank you. It was a question about how you access the premises currently, and also how you exit, what door you use.
So you've got the door on Redwell Street.
Right. Okay. I say that because, or I ask that because I think in the original license it says that access would be via Redwell Street, but egress, leaving, would be via St Andrews to minimise the noise in Redwell Street, which is the narrower streets. And I wondered whether you were aware of that, and whether it's something you've thought of doing.
Thank you. No, I wasn't aware of that. When we got the transfer of licence, we weren't aware of any conditions. We hadn't seen any conditions. This is the first I have seen of it. But what I would say is we're a table service bar. We would very much prefer one entrance, one exit, so we can keep an eye. Adding that St Andrews would be a concern. We'd probably have to perhaps keep cards behind the bar or something. Just 2 entrances and 2 exits, I think, is too easy for people to slip out, and we'd then have to change our style of service to accommodate that.
Thank you. So it's not something, I mean, the door is there, isn't it?
Yes, it's unlocked every night as a fire door, and it is there.
Yeah.
An usable door, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you transferred the license, but didn't read the existing conditions. Is that correct?
I've had a look back. I apologise if I had, but I couldn't find receipt of the existing conditions.
It seems to be point 34 on conditions consistent with the operating schedule.
Okay, apologies. I hadn't seen those. Coincidentally, we do have. I have seen them since we got this objection. So we do have the doorman on. We haven't opened the windows yet, which I saw was a condition, being winter. So we haven't. We're happy to continue doing that. It was just the door inwards and outwards is a concern, and I don't think it's a condition we would have agreed to at the time. I think, apologies again, I think I thought as well the conditions were an agreement between Mr. Bennett and Mr. Hook. But we're more than happy to work with, and if that's what we do, that's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, as you've taken over the license as transferred is what you're obliged to adhere to. David has
yes, Chair.
Help.
Just a couple of things. Technicality, first one, only a premises license holder can apply for a variation. So it's not an individual making this application, it's the limited company, and the report to you and the forms, unfortunately, in error on that point. It causes no particular difficulty, as I don't think anybody's been misled, but the forms are mistaken to that extent. Second point, the premises license runs with the premises. Obeying the operating schedule isn't a voluntary matter, it's an obligation under the law, and you're likely to be at risk of prosecution if you don't. And therefore, if you feel the conditions are unworkable, that's the point of a variation. But I would flag there has been no application to vary those operating schedule conditions. And it may be because the applicant didn't actually see them whilst putting together the variation application. There is one matter that is shouting out as problematic. The current operating schedule keeps flagging challenge 21. The variation application says challenge 25. Logically, they can't both stand. So I take it there is, at least by implication, a variation of challenge 21 to challenge 25 on the operating schedule.
Ms. Fennell, can you just confirm that you'd like to have the reference to challenge 21 removed and replaced with the challenge 25?
Yeah, all our training is challenge 25.
Okay, thank you. So back to the licensing objectives, and the objector has suggested that there may be additional noise as a result of your premises, and in particular people leaving late at night in the additional hour that you've asked for. So what kind of process are you putting in place, or will you have in place to try and prevent noise as people leave, please?
Okay, so currently we call last orders about 11:15 on a Friday, Saturday, because it takes us long enough to get round, which we've noticed is just naturally staggering people leaving as well. We've got the bottom floor, we've also got the cellar, so we kind of do the cellar first, ask them to leave, do the top floor first. So people are staggering leaving. For the last 4 Saturdays, I've watched people leave. I think one Saturday, 100% of people turn right out of our door onto Queen Street. They go on to carry on the night. Most people, I'm never going to say 100%, but the vast majority leave to carry on the night. And that's not something we've asked them to do. Just naturally, it's just something we've noticed. So we don't feel that we are a massive cause of noise on Redwell Street. There's people walking up and down the street all evening, given the nature of, there's Queen Street with a very late licence. There's now the Doghouse and Futburger. It's an easy cut through to get to there. But we ask people to leave quietly. We ask people to leave quickly. We ask people not to smoke on Redwell Street. If they want to have a smoke, we always go and send them out round the corner on St Andrews Street. And we haven't noticed so far any problem. People have been respectful as they leave. I'm pretty happy with how it's been going in that respect.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Button, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask what the capacity of your premises is? My other question you've already answered, and thank you for clarifying that you've had 10s notices to cover for your Fridays and Saturdays. If you could just say what your capacity is, and will that change after COVID restrictions?
Yeah, so as it says, it's a table service bar, so we can only fit in as many seats as we've got, which I think upstairs is 45 and downstairs is 18 to 20. We've got the cellar downstairs, but half of that is our storeroom, so it's not all being used for seating. It won't change after COVID. We like the table service. We don't like people standing at the bar. We like people to come in, sit down, and we'll bring you your drink. That's always the intention.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from Councillor Ackroyd, please?
Yes, it just follows on from where you said, thank you, I should say, but yes, following on from where you said that people book online for delivery and also they book online for collection, did you say? Did I get that?
Yeah, so when we have if we're doing deliveries from this premises here in Sprowston, there's no collections. But when we have the notice, yeah, you book online for collection and it works. We'll say you can come from 3 PM on Saturday and collect your cocktails from there.
And would you have to have booked that?
Not necessarily. So what we have found is people after dinner, they've finished their dinner, they're kind of ready to go home, but not ready for the night. And so people are coming and just picking up a couple of espresso martinis to take home with them. That's why we wanted the license, the off license, to go in conjunction with our opening hours, just because we are finding people are quite liking to swing by after work or after dinner and picking some up.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? From councillors? Oh, sorry, Councillor Ackroyd, you hadn't finished.
Yes, sorry about this. Yes, you mentioned, and I've now lost where I've written it down. You mentioned that you would, if you felt that people were not going home, you wouldn't. I think it was under public nuisance and public. Oh yes, public safety and public nuisance. We wouldn't allow public sales, off sales, if people were going to stay out into the evening. And I wondered how you would know, you know, and you said in section D, if we didn't feel they are taking them home. And I just wondered, you know, how you would quantify that as to whether or not people were not continuing, because you said that a lot of people continue into the night and, you know, obviously do whatever they do. But that the off sales would be for people going home. And I just wondered how that feeling would be sort of moved into something that you really had a handle on.
Yeah, so at the start of the night, they come to the door, we sit them down. As we go along to sit them down, our staff always say, you know, what are you up to for the rest of the night? We kind of get a good gauge. It's quite clear, and actually we don't tend to let people take them home on a Friday and Saturday after a certain point, unless perhaps they've come in with their car keys in their hand and they say, can I just pick up a few, I'm now finishing dinner. It is in the weekdays actually that we find more people just popping in to collect. Like you say, on a weekend people are more likely to go out, and when it's particularly busy as well, we can't offer them collection because they're too busy in the bar. So Fridays and Saturdays, I think, would be the most at risk, and they are the days that perhaps past a certain point we find we're not tending to do the collections anyway. But I think we ask a lot of questions. We ask them, are you taking these home? We just ask them, and I think we get a good gauge. Usually if there's one sober person in the party drinking non-alcoholic beer all night, we know they're probably going to be driving home and taking them home with them. But if everybody's drinking in the party, we probably wouldn't be giving them any more to take home with them.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you have a refusals policy in that case. Do you have keep a record of refusals, either for people who have who you believe may not be taking it home, or the Challenge 25?
Yeah, we've got a little black book behind the bar, and like you say, we had it in place for Challenge 25, but we do also note any refusals.
Okay, thank you. So the objector can't be with us, so we'll cover some of the points that I'm sure he would have talked about. One of the items that's in the document that we received last week refers to an agreement that he had in place with the previous applicant, or the previous license holder, the DPS for which is Mr. Hook. So I'm going to ask David to explain what that is and how relevant it is to this application, if at all, please.
Thanks, Chair. So this looks like a contractual arrangement, if there was any, to give it perhaps the nearest legal phrase, between one individual and another. It went on to the premises license. As he withdrew his objection 2 years ago, it effectively went through on the nod. As to what weight it has for you today, none. save to the extent that the terms are appropriate to the promotion of the licensing objectives. So it's important for the promotion of the licensing objectives, but not important as it's an arrangement between one party and another, not involving the licensing authority. One thing to flag, Chair, whilst I'm on, is a couple more points. The first is that the applicant has said she wants an extra hour, but I note the hours being sought are actually 4 hours in advance in the morning as well. I take it that is remaining as requested. There is an application for late night refreshment starting 7 AM, and of course you can't actually do that. That will start at 2300. And the last thing to flag is the applicant has asked for recorded music. And as committee knows, this is not background music. This is a licensable activity of recorded music. And there are no proposed conditions dealing with recorded music. And it may be something I've just realised that the council wished to ask about.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, Ms. Fennell, can you confirm the points that David raised, and then we'll talk about the music.
Yeah, sorry. Firstly, sorry, I mentioned the extra hour just because I thought that was the objection. The 7 AM in the morning is, while we did it from here, we haven't actually picked it up again, but while we did Tipsy Jar for the first 18 months, we also did postal cocktails. So the 7 AM was realistically just time in the morning. I just wanted to cover our back for the whole day. If Laura had to go in the morning and prepare these, I wanted to make sure the premises were still fully licensed for that.
Okay, so when do you propose to open the bar?
So you're actually going to change it. So it's currently 3 PM in weekdays and 12 o'clock Friday, Saturday. We're actually going to push that back. So opening to have people on the premises, I think we're probably going to push it back to 4 PM on weekdays and 1 PM Friday, Saturday. Okay, so
the extended hours in the morning is for sort of administrative.
It's for preparations and deliveries for the evening, because we will be making the alcoholic drinks and preparation for the postals. We went that early in the morning just because we found it takes up a whole day. So.
Okay, I think it is fair to say that the objector was the main concern was the extra hour in the evening. Okay, so there is the other point that David made. Please, can you remind me, David? You're muted.
I try and do that once a committee. Right, so that's the time. So late night refreshment, you can't have it before 2300 hours. That's because you don't need it before 2300 hours. And lastly, the lack of any condition relating to the playing of recorded music.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So as part of your application, do you wish to amend the application for late night refreshment to begin at 2300 hours?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So that's noted by the committee, and David will note that as well. And relating to the music, you've referred to background music, I think, in your application, and perhaps when you spoke. Do you intend to have additional music?
No, apologies again. I just wanted to make sure I was covering all bases. It's background music.
Okay, so
playlist. It's not live, it's not loud, it's just background music. Okay,
so if you intend to have only background music, there is no necessity for that particular part of the application. So do you wish to withdraw the music element?
Yes, please.
Okay, David, is that noted and covered?
Chair, thank you. So late night refreshment amended 2300, and just going to the relevant page, page 27 of your agenda, box F of the application form. So we can delete all of that, I believe. recorded music goes. Live music. Then we've got hours premises are open to the public. It's up to the applicant completely. But if the premises are just open for the preparation of drinks and so on, you don't really need them open to the public at 7 AM as per page 32 of your agenda. It's completely up to the applicant, as I say, and need is not a relevant consideration for your committee, but just to flag the reason given of preparation doesn't really tie in with the hours requested.
Yeah, okay, so as it is, the application is for opening to the public at 7 o'clock in the morning and potential serving of alcohol from that time. Do you, Ms. Fennell, as the application, wish to proceed on that basis, or do you wish to make a change to that? Again, as David said, it's entirely up to you. We're just considering your application and putting together the final application that we'll consider.
Sure. So yeah, I don't envisage the time will ever be open to the public at 7 AM. We can amend that to later. Like I said, I just wanted to cover all bases, and we don't know what we'll do in the future, but I don't think 7 AM is a necessity, no.
Okay, thank you. So do you wish to amend your application? If you do, you'll need to give us exact timings from when you may wish to open. Bear in mind that should you wish to change that, you'll have to put in another variation application. So this is an opportunity either to amend it or not. It's entirely up to you.
I'd like to keep it if possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just for benefit of members of the public, we are asking detailed questions in order to put together a final application and all the details in order to determine that application as amended. Sally Button, please. Councillor Button.
Thanks, Chair. Mr. Bennett made reference to the DPS. Apparently, it's still registered as Mr. Hook, who is apparently not anything to do with these premises. What are you intending to do about the DPS, please?
Yeah, to my knowledge, we had in November applied to transfer that to my partner Laura Watling, who's been DPS on many premises. So again, I think this, along with the licence, which I apologise again for, I'm going to have a call. I'm going to ring Norwich City Council and just confirm everything to move forward. So Laura Watling will be the DPS, the supervisor.
Okay, David, are we able to amend that now as part of the variation?
No, Chair, but we have Tiff, as it were, at the call, who I don't know whether she is able to access the records to see whether there is an extant variation. It won't make a great deal of difference to your consideration today, but is obviously a source of concern and possible risk to the premises licence holder if the said DPS isn't anything to do with control over these premises at the moment.
Okay, so Ms. Fennell, are you saying that this is a potential administrative error and you expected that your partner would be DPS?
Yes, I apologise. I think this isn't.
Can you give that name again for us, please?
Laura Watling, WHATLING. Yes, straight after this call, I'll be on the phone to Norwich City Council and making sure we can get that in place as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. Tiffany, please.
If I may jump in, they would have been two separate applications. So you make one application to transfer and then a second application to vary the DPS. Does Laura hold a personal licence?
Yes.
Okay, so Aside from what has happened, it is a pretty straightforward process to do the DPS variation. If we need that separate form, it can be done with immediate effect as well. So with a personal licence holder, it's a fairly straightforward one to resolve, just needs the police's check as well. So we can get that sorted, hopefully, fairly promptly.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany. So the committee will note that a change of DBS is planned and in progress. Okay, thank you, David.
Chair, just for the record, obviously it's different if planned or in process. The applicant has said there's an application ongoing. That may be a mistake, but just for the notes of determination record, for a bit of clarity, do we know whether an application has yet been made to the City Council?
That's a question for Ms. Fennell and or Tiffany.
I'll take that, sorry. Yeah, I think that must be an administrative error. As Tiffany's just mentioned, there's two separate forms. I don't think I've done the second form. I thought it was all done. So that is my error, and I apologise.
Okay, so for the benefit of this committee, the statement should read that it is planned to make that application to change the DBS to Laura Watling. Okay, any further questions at this stage? I'll just refer to the objection again. We've covered the hours of trading, and you've described how you will attempt to mitigate noise in the area. I'll just scroll through just to see if there's anything that we've missed out. Okay, with regards to the deliveries, where will your delivery driver park, and indeed for collections, where will your people who collect by car park?
So the delivery driver just waits outside on Redwell Street, and there's 4 car club bays, so they stay in the car, and we have the boxes prepared. We just run them out, and that's once a night, because like I say, it's just one. They do one collection, and then they have a pre-planned map, so it's not a back and forth operation. Collections, we find it's people sort of walking home from work, walking to their car already, so we don't advertise anywhere for them to stop outside the premises.
Okay, thank you. Reference is also made to crime and disorder in the area. So David, can you just confirm, given that the police have made no representations on this, how much weighting should the committee give to that part of the objection, please?
The committee will give serious weight to the fact it's been raised. It's one of your 4 licensing objectives. The committee will give serious weight to the lack of a representation from the Norfolk Constabulary. I'd suggest similarly give weight to the fact the environmental health team, public protection team at Norwich have not raised a representation either. You have your personal knowledge of the city centre and the situation there. I don't think at this stage you can say none or full, but it's a matter for you to give appropriate weighting to when you're considering the licensing objectives.
Okay, thank you. I believe we've covered the main areas of the objections. Are there any more questions from councillors? I don't have any either. David, anything to tidy up?
I'm getting better at that unmute button. No, I don't believe so. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Ms. Fennell, is there anything else you'd like to say to the committee, and then we'll make our determination? No,
only apologies again about a few admin errors, and I will look to sort those out today. I'm quite embarrassed by it.
Okay, thank you. Individually and actually collectively, probably they don't, as David said, they don't affect your application today because this is mostly about a variation. So the committee will note that. Okay, so it's about 11:45. I would suggest that with a comfort break, we'll need 25 minutes or so. So if we return here at around about 12:10. So Leonie will do the necessary with the Zoom tech, and we'll return about 10 past. So thank you to everyone so far. We'll see you shortly.
Yeah, I'll just put yourself and the other members and David into a breakout room and everyone else into the waiting room again.
Thank you. Hello. I believe we are still live. Leonie, can you confirm that, please?
Yeah, we're still live. I can get the applicant and Tiff back into.
Yeah, if you'd like to do that, we'll officially restart. Okay, welcome back, Ms. Fennell and Tiffany. Can you just confirm that you can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll restart. So welcome back to Norwich City Council Licensing Subcommittee, Monday, 31st of January 2022. This is the application for variation of premises licence, Tipsy Jar 8 Redwell Street in Norwich. Okay, so I can confirm that the determination of the committee is unanimous to grant the variation as applied for. We've heard from an objector and the answers given, and David will talk about those in a minute. The one thing that I wanted to flag as chair is disappointment that the applicant hadn't read the conditions at the time of the transfer of the license, and we'd really recommend that you do that thoroughly and consider anything within the conditions that that you're unable to meet at the moment, and consider another variation accordingly. Okay, so I'll ask David to just talk about the points and the reasons for our decision, and then I'll come back.
Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you.
So this is just a summary. A more detailed, comprehensive notice of determination will follow in writing, both to the premises licence holder and the local resident making the representation. So in summary, you've considered how the premises operate, its size, its location, and you feel that the variation proposed will not undermine the licensing objectives. You note the lack of police objections, you note the lack of environmental health objections, you note the way the licensing objectives are promoted on the premises, and the intended controls regarding items sold and who they're sold to. You accept that there is a limited amount of control that the business can enforce, but they're doing their best. You note the withdrawal of the intention regarding recorded music. It's not a particularly large capacity venue, and you note the other venues in the area. You've heard about concerns as to hours and the advertised operating hours. As to off sales, you've heard these were covered by TENS. As to hours on a Thursday, you've heard this was an error, and you're happy with both those explanations. You note the Section 182 national guidance regarding the behaviour of the public once outside the control of the licensee is a matter for personal responsibility and not a matter that would justify refusal of the variation. You note the local licensing policy has no cumulative impact, even if an impact against the licensing objectives was to be found. That, I think, is a summary and bullet point of your decision, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And for the benefit of members of the public and the objector in this case in particular, should this variation not work and those licensing objectives are breached in any way, there is a review process, and therefore it's in the interests of the applicant to make this work. And the review process, people should get in contact with the licensing team. David, please.
Thanks, Chair. And I'm just reminded there's of course the right of an appeal against this decision, as well as the review process, by the local resident 21 days within receipt of written notification to a magistrate's court. The applicant's premises licence holder can't appeal, as they have what they wanted. You've not imposed any conditions on them.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any questions, Ms. Fennell?
No, I need to say thank you very much for all your time today, and apologies. I've emailed the council. I've got the forms now for the DPS, which I'll do right away.
Okay.
I'm going to telephone them at 2 o'clock. I've arranged that. We'll make sure everything's in line, and apologies.
Okay, thank you. It's certainly in your interest to cover the rest of the schedule in great detail, just to cover anything else off. In the meantime, we wish you well, and that is the end of the